필요 없이 모르면 저기 멀리 서 있어 watch us right 아침없이 보여줄게 내가 어떤 나를 믿게 모든 내 것처럼 갖고 놀래 오늘 밤 분위기가 딱 좋아 시간이 멈출 것 같아 게임은 started 누구 술래야 물어보지 않아 대체 알 거야 다른 누구도
If you are struggling with losing weight and feeling like, hang on. All right. Sorry. Can you hear me okay? I had a little thing pop up. Can you hear my? Okay. Let me start over again. This is live. So if you are struggling with losing weight and feel like it's a losing battle, then you need to listen up. We are talking about food addiction today. We are going to look at what are the signs that you might have a food addiction, and also how do you break the cycle. And so this is really important. We've talked about this for the last couple of days, that our processed foods are addictive with the sugar, oil, salt, and additives and chemicals that have been added to enhance the flavors. They are addicting. And what they've done is they have desensitized our taste to real food. So when you eat real foods like fruits and vegetables, they don't taste as good because you're expecting this like high powered ultra taste that you get with your processed foods. And so you may be addicted to foods. And I want to say, if you are, it's not your fault. And I actually, as we go through and I was preparing for today, I was shocked at how many boxes I tick when it comes to things that are kind of the red flags that might alert you to the fact that you have a food addiction. I had a lot of them show up. I was shocked. But fortunately, I have been working on my own journey to break the cycle of the food addictions that I have. And I will kind of intersperse as we go how I have kind of handled that myself. And it's something that I live with, and I know that I have issues with certain foods. And when I finally recognize the foods that I have an issue with and what my issue is, then I realize that that's something I just need to cut out of my diet altogether because I know that I can't handle those foods. All right. So we're going to talk about the get going. But anyway, how are you guys today? And I have a visitor here. I have a visitor. Say hi to Benji. All right. He'll be back. I know he'll be back. He wants love. All right. Everybody's good? All right. We are going to get into what are some of the signs that you might have a food addiction. So see if you check any of the boxes. It doesn't mean that you do have a food addiction, but they are some of the things that are pretty common for people who have a food addiction. And like I said, I tick way too many of the boxes. I was actually shocked at how many of those that I tick. All right. So the first one is compulsive eating. And that's basically binge eating or consuming a large amount of food in a short amount of time. And I have to say that was one that I did when I was younger. It's not something that I have done in the last 10 years really. But when I was younger, I don't know what was in my head or why, but I used to definitely binge eat. And I remember, I think I've told this story, going and going at, you know, I don't know, Sunday night, and getting a dozen donuts to eat and eating a whole dozen donuts, or eating a birthday cake, buying a birthday cake for no birthday and eating pretty much the whole thing. And my favorite part was the icing, that I think now I would die to eat that. I mean, because my life is so different now. But anyway, so that's the first one. The second one is if you have cravings and obsession. So if you have intense cravings for specific foods and you think about it obsessively, and you're preoccupied with it, you may have food addiction. I think I mentioned too, if I have crackers in my desk, they're calling to me all the time until I eat them. So that might, if you have that, then you may have a food addiction. Loss of control, where you're unable to stop eating, even though you know you shouldn't. You should stop, and you're already full. You still keep eating until uh, it's just crazy. And then you experience guilt and shame or regret after you finished, and you just like, oh my gosh. And I think, that for me goes along with the compulsive eating. When I used to eat compulsively, I lost control at the same time. So I could tick both of those boxes for sure. But I still now have to be really careful about my eating, because I can sometimes go too far. And, it may not be a food addiction too. Sometimes, people go to buffets, they tend to pig out and eat more because they want to get, all their money's worth and stuff. And so sometimes people, they don't have a food addiction, but they might overeat on occasion because it's a special meal, or they're out at a restaurant or something like that. Emotional eating as well, if it could be a coping mechanism for stress or boredom. Um, and then rather than, or sadness, and rather than dealing with it, you turn to food for comfort, because um, that's kind of the way that, and you're not addressing the actual emotional issue. And I know, this is where you see people will be in a breakup, and they pull out the ice cream and eat it right out of the bucket. So that kind of is, I think we see that a lot in movies. And sometimes, people, you may have emotional issues that are buried that you don't even have, and you're turning to food for comfort, and you may not even really recognize what that emotional trigger is that's causing that. So it's something to be really mindful of. And believe it or not, this is probably one of the ones I didn't have a lot. And if I had sadness, I usually lost my appetite. And then I thought, wow, I'm actually normal. I lost my appetite when something stressful was going, or something was going on, and my stomach was in knots, because I normally, like I said, I've got all these other things going. And withdrawal symptoms. Okay, so this is one where you actually are hiding your food, you're eating in secret as well. Um, or maybe you, sorry, for this one, you're experiencing withdrawal symptoms when you try to cut back on a food. And so you may be irritable because you're wanting that food. I think people do that with coffee, but I think that's different than a food addiction. It's more of a coffee as on its own. Maybe you have mood swings or physical cravings, or you may get headaches. So that's not one that I ever experienced. I know I have had those kind of withdrawal symptoms when I've done a detox, but I don't think of them as being because of the lack of that particular food. I think it's part of the process of detoxifying your body. But that's something you may experience. Where you continue to use despite the consequences. And so this is something where you're eating foods um, even though like they have negative consequences to you, like maybe your health or your weight, or it has to do with a relationship, or the quality of your life. And I would say this one is typical for, I actually have experienced that too. I know I need to eat healthy and I want to eat healthy, so why am I turning to potato chips in the evening? And again, and of course, I can't eat a little bowl. I eat the whole bag, right? So, or I'll go back to OJ's. I know that I need to, cut back on my fats, but I slather on a bunch of butter or margarine onto my food because it tastes good. And then, then you feel uh, pretty bad about it, right? Because you feel like you have the next thing, which is lack of control. And it's whether it's the portions um, size as well, but just that whole lack of feeling like you don't have control. And so if you are having trouble controlling your portion sizes, so here, that's my example again. You get a little bowl of chips and you can't just eat a little bowl of chips. You go back for seconds and thirds and fourths. Oh my gosh. I've never told anybody this ever. This is my little secret. But when I used to travel for business, I would go quarterly to a client's board meetings, and I would have to fly to Calgary. And when I would land, I would rent a car, and the hotel I stayed at was close to a grocery store. I would go to the grocery store and buy a big bag of potato chips, Miss Vicky's, and a bottle of, thankfully, it was just a bottle of sparkling water, not pop or anything. And that would be my dinner every time I went to the meeting. And that became my habit to do that every time. So, and of course, if I bought a whole bag, I have to eat the whole bag. And that's the unfortunate. So if you have trouble controlling your portions, sizes of your food, and just kind of keep going back for more, hiding or sneaking the food. This is the one I was thinking of on the other page. So if you're hiding or sneaking your food, that's another one. So you're very secretive about it. And you know what? I used to do that one too. But as you think, um, here's what I learned recently. Your body is perfect for you. Your body is perfect for you. It's absolutely perfect. And so if you're overweight, or you have chronic disease or whatever, it's perfect because your eating is showing the symptoms of what you've been eating. And so, yeah, I used to hide or sneak food, but it didn't matter because I was overweight. So it was showing up anyway. And I did, that's the part that I missed, is that, oh, you can make it look like you eat like a bird, but if you're eating like a bird, there is a connection to all these things. You would think that you would see things different. So I think you need to kind of get in touch with yourself, and make sure that you're not not hiding, not being real with yourself, and really be real with yourself and honest with yourself about things. If it has a negative impact on your life, if this would be if it disrupts your daily life or your social activities or your relationships because of food, and then the food has a impact on your mood and well-being. Maybe you don't go out because you're ashamed of your eating or whatever. So it could have a negative impact. And then you could have a cycle of restricting and binging. So you go on a really strict diet or fast, and then you lose control and end up binging. And I did that one too, a little bit, not on a regular basis, but I know I went on a medically supervised diet. This was my very first diet, well, maybe second, but the very first serious diet. And I lost, I think, 40 pounds, and everything was great for about a year. And then all of the sudden, and this is like long binging, all of the sudden I couldn't control how much I was eating. And I think I ended up gaining 60 pounds. So a lot of good that really calorie restricted diet did for me. And I think that was when I was at my absolute low after that, because I just felt pretty demoralized and pretty depressed about the whole situation. And you want to snap out of it, but you just can't figure out how to get from it. So if you can relate to any of these signs and behaviors of food addictions, like I said, you may not have a food addiction, but there's a good chance that you do. And so it's something to kind of think about. And if you do feel that you have an addiction, and look, I ticked like almost every box on that list. I'm like, wow, I didn't even realize it, but putting it together, it's pretty eye-opening. There are some ways that you can break the cycle. So we're going to talk about that next. So now we're leaving the food addiction behind and we're breaking the cycle. If you have, I'm just going to say right off, if you have are concerned about it, and I would, especially if it's very acute, I would really highly recommend that you seek professional help. So there could be a healthcare professional, like a psychologist, a dietitian, a counselor who specializes in eating disorders and food addiction. I know we have interviewed a couple of special people who specialize in that. I've done a summit where I interviewed a couple of people who are specialists. If you were looking for somebody and you need help, you can reach out to me and I will see if I can help you or get you in touch with the right person. So please don't just do nothing. If you feel like it, seek help. I found in my life that it's always helpful to have somebody who can help you, that you can listen to, who can be a sounding board. Going alone is hard. It's hard, hard, hard. And so if you can have somebody who can help you out and also help you to feel better about yourself, then please seek attention and get some help from somebody. And maybe it's just opening up to a friend that you can trust or somebody you can trust. And I know it may be hard, but please do it. So one thing is to identify what your triggers are. Okay, so it may be that you're eating emotionally. It could be that you eat for stress, for boredom. Maybe you're lonely. There could be some emotional trauma that which seems to be a big thing right now is trauma, but there could be an emotional trauma that is sitting inside you that you have pushed down and you've numbed because you don't want to deal with it. But no matter what happens, all of these emotional traumas, you can push them down and ignore them, and you may not even know that they're there, but they still are part of you. And, we talked about that mind and body connection. And if you have that emotional trauma that you've buried deep inside, it's probably showing up some way, and it could be showing up in the way that you're dealing with your food. So, again, this is where professional help can help you to figure that out. It could be something environmental as well. Maybe there's certain foods around. So I have 2 kids, and I have 4 kids, but 2 of them live at home. But they might be bringing different food in the house, and I'm good, except that at night when I'm really, I want something to eat, something salty, then I'm rummaging around and finding that, they had some chips. And even though I didn't bring the chips in, the chips are there, and oops. So your environment, be very aware of that, and sometimes out of sight, out of mind. And so, if those chips and those crackers are sitting there in your drawer, maybe you can't resist them. And it could be situational. Maybe it's, at social gatherings or celebrations and stuff. So if you can identify what your triggers are, then you're going to be in a place where you can start working on how you can break the cycle of those triggers for you. You can work on developing healthy coping mechanisms. So instead of turning to food, maybe, and this would depend on yourself and what kind of person you are, maybe you turn to something with mindfulness in mind, or physical activity. They say if you've eaten and you feel like you want to go back for seconds, but you really aren't hungry, do something for 20 minutes and you probably will then, that urge will pass. So, after dinner, if that's an issue, uh, go for a walk for 20 minutes. And then it's doing 2 things for you. One, it's getting you out of the house and getting a little bit of exercise, maybe getting you into nature, which is also good, but it's getting you away from the kitchen and where the food is. Don't take it in your pocket with you, for sure. And when I was still in high school. I was a teenager, and I already was kind of feeling that I was uh, overweight or too heavy. And in the summertime, I played softball. And so after we ate, we were off to softball 3 or 4 nights a week or whatever it was. And what I found is during that time, I actually lost weight. And we were going out for, not that I recommend this, but we were going out for ice cream after some of our games too. I lost weight. It was because I was out, I was physically active, and I wasn't thinking about food. So I kind of broke the cycle there. You could journal, you could do meditation, you could seek social support, you could get involved with a group of some sort. And then while you're doing those kind of things, you can hopefully break that cycle of thinking constantly about food. You can create a supportive environment for yourself. And so I kind of was talking about this already. get rid of the trigger food. So remove them. And then I know a lot of people have families, and so it's not always easy because they want their junk food or whatever it is, and they might like some of the trigger foods that you have. So there's a number of ways you can deal with that. Number one, you can talk to your family and ask them to be supportive of what you're trying to do. Uh, that would be one, and not bring those foods into the house. Or maybe they take them, like for your kids, if they're older, not that I recommend having food in your room, but they can store the food in their room so that you don't have to see it. Or I've heard of people getting a lockbox that has um, a combination lock, like a safe, and having a place where people can put their junk food that you don't have the combination to, so you can't get access to it, but they can. So if you're really serious about it, you may go to that length to get that. And for us in our house, we have a pantry and we've got room at the top, and it's quite high up, close to the sea, actually touches the ceiling. We have baskets that are not see-through, and the kids put their junk food up there. And so for me, most of the time, it's out of sight, out of mind. But there is the occasion, not very often anymore, but there is the occasion where I'm like, oh, I really want something. Let me see what's in the junk food thing. But you know what? Most of the time, their junk food ends up getting stale because they forget it's up there too. So it's not something I do very often. Stock up on healthy alternatives. Have some fruit and vegetables around, the ones that you like around, so that you can eat those instead. And I watched a show where this fitness coach worked with a lady to get to help her lose weight on a plant-based lifestyle. And he came into her house and they basically cleared all her cupboards and got rid of all of the processed foods and all of the stuff that have all those chemicals and stuff in them. And then they replaced it. She had this big bowl of fruit. It had all sorts of fruits in it. And she could eat the whole thing. She was never hungry, but she was stocking up and eating the other healthy alternatives that she could turn to. And then again, seek encouragement from your loved ones or a support group if you have that available to you. It's always good to have some support, whether it's from your family, a friend, or a support group, or all of them. Just be real and authentic with people. I think that's a good start, and then you can hopefully, if they're your real true friends or family and they love you, they will help you and not try to sabotage you. So lean on people when you need to. Practice mindful eating. So this is where you eat slow and you avoid distractions. So slow down, avoid distractions, and pay attention to your hunger cues. And I know that can be hard. That was something that I have trouble with, is the hunger cues. Sometimes what I'll do, because if I make a pasta, I don't eat a normal size portion of pasta. I eat a super portion of pasta. And so if I want to make sure that I'm not overeating pasta, what I'll do is I'll take my bowl and put the pasta in the bowl first. So there's no seconds. And I'll cook just that portion. So that I'll watch what the portions are before I cook them so that I'm not overcooking. So pay attention, be mindful about your eating, eat at the table if you can, away from everything. Get your phone and all that stuff out of the way. And if you really, really concentrate and be grateful for the food that you have. here's a good one, and this is how I have been dealing with it. So, um, dev- get a balanced meal plan, and if you know what you're going to be eating, it makes it a lot easier, because if here's what I would do if I'm hungry and I'm ready for lunch. I've finished my meetings and I go downstairs because I'm working from home now to get my lunch, and I haven't got something prepared or I haven't got something in mind and I don't know what I'm going to eat and I'm hungry. I'm likely going to reach for the wrong food. So if you can try to have something either prepared or at least have a plan that helps. And I'm just going to say, go for your lifestyle, not a diet. And so, this is something you don't have to conquer everything today. It's a long, you want to go for the long term. So if you have, like me, I had more than one issue. I've been working to remove all those issues for over 10 years now, and I feel that I'm right now on the last one, and I feel very confident that I've got this so that I can move forward with the lifestyle that I want to move forward with and put my food addiction behind me. But it's not something that happened overnight. And I started by removing processed sugar. So that was my very first step, was the processed sugar. And now if you put a birthday cake in front of me, I would get nauseous because of the smell of the sugar. I would tell you to take it away from me. But that's because I broke the cycle of sugar and I did it and I've stayed with it. I don't eat any processed sugar because here's the deal. I know that I have a food addiction and I don't want to start by having a little bit of cake here and there. And then eventually I go back to eating it all the time. And as a matter of fact, I did have a little piece of cake in last year. We were visiting my family, and my sister-in-law was very proud that she had bought a vegan cake or vegan cupcakes. And she was like, "Oh, did you try them? Did you try them?" And that was the first and only time that I had something like that. And I said to my mom, I cut it in half and I took a little tiny bite just to say that I had it, and I moved on from there. But other than that, if somebody asks me, I don't eat sweets, I don't eat desserts, I don't eat any of those things that have processed sugar in them. Now, I used to eat ketchup, so there's a little bit of it, but for the most part, I got rid of it. But this is something that's happened over time. So do the overtime thing. Life is a journey. If you go on a diet, you may be back into that cycle at some point, like I was after I had my medically supervised diet. And before you know it, I'm actually out of control, worse than I was before I started. So please go for the lifestyle, not the diet. Set realistic goals. You can set short-term and long-term goals. I think it's great to look at what's the health of your dreams. Where do you want to be with your health, and have that vision there of something that you're working towards, but then make short-term goals that will get you towards that, and celebrate the small victories. It's not about the big thing. Really celebrate where you've come from and where you've gone. Practice self compassion. One of the other people I interviewed who also does food addiction, she was battling food addiction herself. And what she found is when she finally loved herself and was okay and with who she was now, and embraced herself where she was. That's when she got rid of all of those, I guess that negative energy just fell off of her. And all of a sudden, she was able to start eating properly and start losing weight because she was loving herself now. Forgive yourself. If you don't be hard on yourself. We're all human. And don't forget, part of the reason you likely have a food addiction is because of all of those scientifically precise food habits that the big food companies are trying to keep you coming back. They want you to continue eating their crackers and their chips and all of that stuff and their birthday cakes. And so they have a vested interest in you liking them. So forgive yourself and focus on positive changes. Stay accountable as well. You can journal, you can track your progress, you can go to a support group. I'm just going to tell a couple of stories. I know we're on the long side again. This is such a great topic. I'm going to give you a reference at the end, but there's a guy. His nickname is Andrew Spud. Andrew Spud Taylor, and he actually was over 300 pounds, and he was really depressed and was having trouble breaking that cycle with his foods. And he, on his own, decided that he was going to go on a diet where he only ate one food for a whole year, just one food. And he did his research and he landed on potatoes. And potatoes actually are well known to be almost the perfect food. And so he was able to, just living on potatoes alone for a year, he just wanted to have something plain, nothing exciting, and live the rest of his life and get something else and a passion in his life besides food, and move food to just being something that he eats because he needs to eat food to live. And so that's why he decided for himself just to eat potatoes for a year. And so there's a podcast. I'm going to give you the link at the end here that you should, I encourage you to listen to. It's very inspiring. But he ate just one food for a year. And so he kept it simple. But what he also did is he kept a video journal for himself, and he posted online. His posts were only for himself. He wasn't making it for anybody else, but it was his way to stay accountable and keep going. So find a way to be accountable and keep going for yourself. It's really important. And the last thing I'll say is know yourself. What I do for myself, I can tell you and I can give you suggestions, but you need to understand yourself. Be honest with yourself about what your issues are and what's going to work for you, because what works for me might not work for you, but there is something that will work for you. I know there is, and you just have to find it and keep going. Celebrate your non-food rewards. Get a hobby. That's like Andrew. He decided to put food to the side, do something simple, and do some other things. Get a hobby. Do some self-care practices. Do something meaningful. Going on a trip or going on hikes with your friends or something like that. Going to movies without eating all the popcorn that's there. And my final thing is take one day at a time. I'm going to also suggest another podcast with Chef AJ, who also has food addictions. And these are Rich Roll podcasts. And I don't know if Rich Roll is a ultra marathoner, and he has had issues with alcohol and food addictions himself. And so they're really great and very inspiring to listen to both of the podcasts that Rich Roll did. And that's the big thing that their messages were, to take things one day at a time. And it's not about giving things up for your whole lifetime, giving up chips for your whole lifetime. It's about giving up your chips today and get through today. And then tomorrow is another day. But they also know that if they have the chips, that might bring them back to where they were. So they're very diligent about, once they break the cycle, keeping whatever that trigger is out of their life, and not letting it come back in their life. So inspiring. It was very inspiring to me, and that's why I did this couple of sessions. So I'll share that with you. I want to share a quote first. I have one of my favorite quotes that I decided not to put here is, "A journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step, and just take the one step." But today I'm going to do a Tony Robbins quote. "The only impossible journey is the one you never begin." The only impossible journey is the one you never begin. All I'm saying is just start. And if you need help starting, find someone. And if you'd like, you can reach out to me and I'll help you find and get connected to someone. And here's these podcasts. So it's www.richroll.com. And then he has podcasts. And if you just Google Rich Roll podcasts, and you go Chef AJ or Andrew Spudfit Taylor, that's what I couldn't remember. That I thought there was more to it, but Andrew Spudfit Taylor, you will get to those podcasts. And I really encourage you to listen to them. I found them very inspiring and hope that you do as well. Are there any questions after all of that?
Okay, none from my end.
So I can't hear either one of you.
No, we can't hear you. I think you have a lot of noise in the background too.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Oh no. Well, you can ask them to me and we can put them on. I want to hear your questions.
Can you try again,
All right.
Patty?
Yeah, it's like your mic is garbled.
Yeah, seems like there's a lot
Okay.
going on.
All right. We'll get your questions
I can hear
after.
you.
Yeah, we'll get the questions after. All right. So I hope you enjoyed this bit on what we've talked about today. Is some things that you might behaviors that may mean that you have a food addiction, and then how you can break the cycle. And don't forget to listen to the podcast. We will be back tomorrow at 2 p.m. in the kitchen. So this is Easter weekend. And so Good Friday is on Friday. And I am going to make one of our family favorites that I prepare on Easter Sunday for my family. So get ready for that tomorrow, and then we will be off on Friday. But tonight I am doing a live at 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on authenticity. So if you're interested, join us at 7 p.m. Eastern Time for a good chat and information on authenticity. It's a big thing to be authentic. And the way to be authentic is to not be inauthentic. So we're going to show you how you can be authentic. All right. We'll see you later. Everybody have a good rest of your day.
Bye.